Hello and welcome to lecture number 71. This is topic 4.18, Black Life in Theater, TV, and Film. There's two learning objectives today, and the first is describe representations of African Americans on the stage and screen by African Americans in the 20th and 21st centuries. We're going to start with the producer and director Oscar Micheaux. He produced nearly 50 films, and between the 1920s and 1940s, he's known for presenting Black life and characters in a realistic and complex manner. This was happening at a time when the movie industry was in its early stages. The first talkie, or movie with actors speaking dialogue, was The Jazz Singer, which premiered in 1927. So when Oscar Micheaux made his film debut in 1919 as a black director, he was definitely a pioneer in the field. In fact, Micheaux is considered the first major African-American filmmaker, and his independent productions were crucial in challenging Hollywood's racial barriers. Some of the most famous movies he directed include Body and Soul, which premiered in 1925 and was the acting debut of Paul Robeson. Robeson was a Renaissance man and was not only an actor, but also a lawyer, singer, and activist who later became a prominent figure in the civil rights movement. Micheaux also directed The Exile in 1931, which was one of the first black talkies, and a musical titled Swing in 1938. This was a time when Hollywood was becoming more centralized, with the major studios dominating distribution, making Micheaux's independent success even more remarkable. Because Micheaux's movies told the stories of black characters, he created many opportunities for all black casts to perform a range of roles, challenging the negative stereotypes that black characters were typically forced to play at the time. Often in movies, black characters were depicted in demeaning and one-dimensional ways. Whenever a black character was prominently featured in a white-directed film, the actor who played them was normally a white actor dressed in blackface. The Jazz Singer, the first movie with synchronized sound, is a great example because it has a black main character, but he is played by a white actor in blackface. This practice of blackface had been common in minstrel shows since the 19th century and continued to be a tool of racial mockery well into the early 20th century. Micheaux's career helped pave the way for future black filmmakers in the later 20th century who depicted black life in more nuanced ways, including Spike Lee, Ava DuVernay, and Ryan Coogler. Spike Lee, for example, often cites Micheaux as an influence, particularly in his mission to portray black stories outside of Hollywood's typical narratives. Micheaux's work helped combat the prevalence of racist depictions of African Americans, starting with his movie Within Our Gates, which premiered in 1920 as a direct response to D.W. Griffith's controversial 1915 film The Birth of a Nation, which glorified the Ku Klux Klan as the saviors of the South. Griffith's film was the first true Hollywood blockbuster, and despite its racism, it had a lasting impact on cinematic techniques, making Micheaux's counter-narrative all the more important. Despite his efforts, the stereotypically negative ways of depicting black characters continued into the 20th century with blaxploitation films. This genre, which emerged in the 1970s, featured black protagonists but often reinforced stereotypes of crime, violence, and hypersexuality. However, some black filmmakers, such as Melvin Van Peebles, sought to reclaim the genre for empowerment. Now we're going to focus on Soul Train, the TV show that ran from 1971 to 2006. This was a popular African-American dance program created by Don Cornelius in 1971. It was inspired by American Bandstand, a show with a similar format that showcased musical acts, many of whom later gained mainstream success. Soul Train began in syndication, which meant that local TV stations aired it at different times. However, it was generally broadcast weekly on Saturdays. This creativity, music, and art showcased on Soul Train reflected the broader black arts movement that was taking place during the 1970s. This movement, which was influenced by the civil rights movement, sought to celebrate and promote black culture through literature, theater, and visual arts. Soul Train became a platform for black artists to showcase their music and reach wider audiences. Some of the major artists who performed on Soul Train in its early years included Aretha Franklin, James Brown, and Stevie Wonder. James Brown in particular used his platform to popularize the slogan, "Say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud," which became an anthem of black empowerment. As time went on, Soul Train adapted to the evolving popular music styles that African Americans were listening to, including rap and hip-hop, with acts like Run DMC and TLC also making appearances on the program. Run DMC was one of the first hip-hop groups to achieve mainstream success, helping bridge the gap between rap and rock with their hit collaboration Walk This Way with Aerosmith. Because of its growing popularity, the show helped introduce black fashion, hairstyles, and slang into mainstream pop culture. One of the most iconic elements of the show was the Soul Train line, where dancers would showcase moves that gained wider popularity across the country. Breakdancing, which emerged in the 1970s alongside hip-hop, was one of the main dance styles that gained mainstream attention thanks to the platforms like Soul Train. The success of the show demonstrated the growing economic power of black audiences and the continued cultural contributions of black Americans to popular culture. By the 1980s, the buying power of black consumers had increased significantly, leading to more representation in media and advertising. Soul Train ended in 2006, but it inspired other shows that aired around the same time, including BET's 106 & Park and Yo MTV Raps. Both of these programs showcased new and popular music by black artists, using a similar format and creating platforms for black self-expression. In fact, Yo MTV Raps, which debuted in 1988, played a crucial role in bringing hip-hop culture to mainstream audiences worldwide. The second learning objective is explain how migration and economic growth influence representations of African Americans in television and film. First, we're going to look at black theater in the 20th century, which experienced significant growth as theater companies emerged in urban centers where migrants settled during the Great Depression. These places included Chicago and New York. The Great Migration, which took place from roughly 1916 to 1970, saw millions of African Americans move from the rural South to the northern and western cities in search of better opportunities and to escape Jim Crow laws. An example of this growth in black theater is Amiri Baraka, whom we've covered in our lecture on the Black Arts Movement. He founded the Black Arts Repertory Theater in Harlem. Baraka was a key figure in both literature and activism, and his work often challenged systemic racism and advocated for black self-determination. Professional community theaters produced plays that depicted black life, addressing complex political and social issues that were important to black communities, whether related to economics, discrimination, or social justice. A major example of this is Lorraine Hansberry's A Raisin in the Sun, which was the first play by a black woman to be performed on Broadway. Hansberry became the youngest playwright and the first black woman to win the New York Drama Critics Circle Award in 1959. Her play explored themes of racial segregation, economic struggles, and the pursuit of the American dream. Black theater also included expressions of black joy in both dramatic and musical forms. One example of this is The Wiz, which premiered in 1974 and was loosely based on the musical The Wizard of Oz. This all-black retelling of the classic story became a cultural milestone and was later adapted into a 1978 film starring Diana Ross and Michael Jackson. Another example is Purely Victorious, which premiered in 1961. It was a satirical play that critiqued racism and segregation in the South. Its playwright, Ossie Davis, was not only a celebrated actor and writer, but also a civil rights activist who worked alongside Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X. Since the 1970s, black television has attempted to capture the diversity within black culture. TV shows have depicted a wide range of life experiences, moving beyond stereotypes to show the complexity and success of African American families. Black television shows have exhibited several different themes, two of which are highlighted here. The first is Upward Mobility, as seen in The Jeffersons, which ran from 1975 to 1985. This show followed a black couple who moved on up to the East Side due to their success in managing a chain of dry cleaners. This challenged racial and economic barriers by portraying black families in a high socioeconomic position. At the time, most black characters on TV were portrayed as struggling or in subservient roles, making The Jeffersons groundbreaking in its depiction of black wealth. A similar theme was present in The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, which aired from 1990 to 1996. The show centered on a wealthy black family navigating cultural differences between social classes, as seen through the experiences of their nephew, played by Will Smith, who moved from a rough neighborhood in Philadelphia to the mansion in Bel-Air. The show was one of the first to explore the cultural tensions between working class and upper class black Americans in a humorous yet thoughtful way. The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air currently has a modern reboot airing on NBC and Peacock titled Bel-Air, which reimagines the story with a more dramatic tone. Another major theme in black television is strong family units, as seen in Good Times, which aired from 1974 to 1979. This show focused on a working-class black family in Chicago and highlighted academic struggles, resilience, and perseverance in the face of economic hardship. It was one of the first sitcoms to portray a two-parent black household, countering negative stereotypes of black family life. More recently, Black-ish, which ran from 2014 to 2022, explored issues of identity, middle-class experiences, and generational differences in a modern context. It also sparked spin-offs like Grown-ish and Mixed-ish, further expanding conversations about race, culture, and class. One of the most influential black television producers today is Tyler Perry. He has created a media franchise directing both plays and movies and is most closely associated with Medea film franchise. His TV shows often emphasize faith, family, and resilience, ranging from comedies to serious dramas. Examples of shows he's produced or directed include Meet the Browns, House of Pain, and The Oval. Perry made history in 2008 when he opened Tyler Perry Studios, becoming the first African-American to own a major film studio outright. His studio has since been used for major Hollywood productions, including Black Panther. The variety of Black television depictions continues today with comedies like Abbott Elementary, which highlight the resilience of underfunded schools and their teachers, and dramas like Atlanta, which starred Donald Glover. Glover, who also raps under the alias Childish Gambino, became a multi-hyphenated creative force, winning Emmy, Grammy, and Golden Globe Awards. Another modern show, Insecure, created by and starring Issa Rae, explores contemporary Black experiences, friendships, and relationships with humor and authenticity. Issa Rae originally gained fame through her YouTube series Awkward Black Girl, which led to her groundbreaking HBO deal, providing the power of digital media and elevating new voices in television. And finally, here's the recap. Oscar Micheaux was a pioneer for Black filmmakers. He presented a Black cast and characters in ways that challenged stereotypes and created opportunities for Black actors. Soul Train brought Black music, fashion, and culture into mainstream pop culture. Black theater grew alongside the Black arts movement, and major plays include A Raisin in the Sun, Purely Victorious, and The Wiz. Black television has depicted the diversity of Black life in genres that range from sitcoms, comedies, to dramas. Thank you for watching. If you would like to watch the next lecture, click the thumbnail on the screen. And if you would like more resources to help you study, you can visit apushlights.com/AFAM. I wish you the best of luck with your studies, and I hope to see you back on the next lecture.